Greetings, YouTube. Happy New Content Wednesday. By the time that I drop this will not be the screen, right? The Destroyer of Light event quest will be gone forever, at least in this form. And most importantly, for the sake of this video, you will not see a Cosmic Eclipse side quest again, or the Cosmic Horror, which would have been a truly cosmic horror show for me, if not for the true MVP of the month, Mr. Sweeta, who's also an awesome dude that I just generally am glad that somehow this Marvel Casino of Champions crossed our paths. I love meeting people. That's why I do so many crystal opening commentaries, because I make relationships with people, even if the video isn't the best, or if, regardless of the amount of views. That's not what's important. It's about building friendships and relationships that hopefully will last long after this game is gone, long after I have left YouTube, etc. So I have grown to understand in this game that each month the side quests can look vastly different from the previous month. Now, if you ask me, Prof, what's the gold standard of side quests? It used to be Gwenpool Goes to the Movies, a side quest that was so easy it almost felt like compensation, that you could auto fight with 4 stars to get the top 5-star crystal rewards. This was a mixed bag for me, because this was essentially the conclusion of a 2-month side quest that started in September with objectives that were, to say the least, very frustrating and very confusing, and at times gave people the ability to bash their phone against the wall when they didn't see the special objectives pop up. I still don't understand on my account the Thronebreaker or the Cavalier, whatever the highest difficulty was. Maybe it was Thronebreaker. Popped up right away, but that was it. And then another difficulty wouldn't pop up until I had 100% explored all of that difficulty. Yet some people told me that they got everything in front of them. But I felt like I was really lucky compared to some other accounts where they had nothing pop up and would send me proof that they had nothing, like this blank screen in front of you, only they're supposed to have all the difficulties. And then just randomly one day they'd log in and there it would be. So the first thing that does not need to return is the bug that causes so many people, including those at the top progression level of Thronebreaker or the second top progression level of Cavalier, to not see the objectives for days, if not weeks. And I know people will say, well, Prof, it's their fault for not doing them. Well, if they're supposed to have like a 35-day period to do it, that shouldn't be the player's fault for not seeing it. If you have 35 days to complete something, you should be able to have 35 days, regardless of whether or not you take 34 days to do it or whether you do it in the first 34 minutes. But the second thing that I found to be real frustrating about this side quest event was just in the Cosmic Eclipse discussion. I know when I click on it, it's currently locked, but it seems like the different paths were just not really that thought out in terms of difficulty. Whereas the one that I always did the entire time, the 6-star shards and the 7 5-star class signature stone crystals, I ended up not needing to use Revive in like the last 2 weeks of it. But with the bugs and the way the game was crashing, I lost a couple things just because, especially in that final Symbiote Spidey fight, if you didn't land a parry or if there was a frame rate issue, you're basically dead. And that's what caused my Battle Realm Bestie Katie Candy to just abandon that goal of that quest entirely and go for an easier one just to get it done. Now, I will say, speaking of the 7 5-star 6-stone crystals, I thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly, enjoyed the rewards that we got every day from it. I liked that there were only 3 fights. That was awesome. I always like when there's 0 energy cost to those paths as well. But 3 fights seems fair, especially if the PI of the defenders is between 30,000 and 45,000. But I legitimately earned way more 6-star shards last month than I ever have before in a side quest, thanks to that format. And the 6-star basic crystal, don't get me wrong, it's still the worst gamble in the game. Like, you can open 10 6-star basic crystals and not get a single God tier champion. You can get what the poor soul recently got, which is 3 OG Daredevils and like 2 inferior Iron Mans out of 5 out of 10 crystals. And you just feel like quitting. Now, that's extremely terrible drop rate luck, but it still is what can happen to a summoner. So I love the increase in 6-star shards, and I love the 5-star 6-stone crystals because I have several 5-stars, about one of each class, that need 6-stones. And I got to put a lot more into them, including the acquired October luck of the Dad Bod finally, thanks to the side quest event. And when you combine the 5-star 6-stone crystals with the generic 5-star 6-stones that you get for the 22-hour events, I didn't have a Dad Bod at this time a month ago. Now, not only is 5-star Red Guardian awakened and in my roster, but he's already up to Sig 111. He's number 1 times 3. That's pretty amazing. Not too many months can I say, especially because I didn't have any 6-stones really to start, or I guess not many. I had like 30. But not many months can I say in just a couple weeks I can go from Sig 1 to Sig 111. But so many of those 6-stones came from a side quest. I don't like the 2-month strategy. I do love the 3 fights. And the other thing that I would just point out with Kabam is that their messaging for the side quest was all over the place. They gave like 4 different excuses for why people weren't seeing objectives pop up, and none of them were consistent, and none of them made sense. And one of my biggest complaints with Kabam is, and it's hard to do, or they feel like it's impossible because so many employees work for them, but they all need to be on the same page. Like, we've seen examples of the past month where somebody's commented something on the forums, like, for instance, a 22-hour event is working as intended, when clearly that was a lie. And they might have believed it, and they were trying to save face with the company, but then the company would contradict that statement like 5 hours later. And so we need consistency as players regarding messaging. And so Kabam needs to send out an internal memo whenever something pops up that's like, hey, if somebody asks about this, this is our stance on it. Because if you contradict yourself publicly, you're just losing any remaining credibility that you may have with your audience. That's just journalism 101, which is something I talk to my students a lot about, especially in my advanced reporting classes. So overall, if I was to give a grade to this past month's side quest, I'd probably give it the same grade that, ironically, I gave the new featured 5-star crystal, and that's a B-. It had great reward upside, but you had ticked off so many players by the time that you got to it, even if you did get your 3-star anti-venom and go through it, that several people were just burnt out. I also have to say that, and maybe I'm just not smart enough, like maybe it's just on me, but I found the way that the pre-fight abilities needed to be used, the limits of those, with good old Steve, to be the most confusing aspect of any side quest ever. I love that we still have him, though we can rarely use him for anything. I'd love to use him in the arena, right? Wouldn't it be cool if you could take him into like the Summoner Trials arena, but you can't. He still appears though. Isn't it weird that you have to like deselect him even though you can't use him in the arena? There should be some kind of champion block in that regard, because when you go to Summoner Trials arena, maybe it's me just complaining too much. I know people think I'm too sensitive, but like if you can't use somebody in the arena, he's always going to be my top champion. I'm never going to have a 3-star that has 8,793. Now, thankfully, at least with the new strategy, we can do this and he goes away. But I still don't get why he's allowed to show up even in the game files if you can't use him. So, small complaint. Again, shout out to Suida, who, even after using his amazing guide, I still burn through at least 10 revives. But the 25% tier 5 Class Catalyst Fragment Selector, the 10,000 6-star shards, the 5-star generic Awakening Gem, all of those were worth the time for sure. It was just 2 months of time. Let's make sure we don't hit 10 minutes and get those pesky triple ads on this video. So we're going to end it here. What grade would you give the October side quest? Let me know in the comments below. I always appreciate your feedback.